The Army of the Shenandoah was an army of the Confederate States of America during the American Civil War. It was organized to defend the Shenandoah Valley of Virginia in the early months of the war. The army was transferred to reinforce the Confederate Army of the Potomac at the First Battle of Bull Run, which was its only major action. After the battle, the army was merged into the Army of the Potomac. History. The Army of the Shenandoah originated with the various militia and volunteer companies sent to seize and defend the town of Harper's Ferry, Virginia. To organize and train the companies, Virginia State Commander Robert E. Lee initially appointed Thomas J. Jackson to command the post. Jackson formed 5 regiments of infantry and a battery of artillery from the various companies, forming the basis of the Stonewall Brigade. On May 15, Joseph E. Johnston replaced Jackson as commander of Harper's Ferry and continued to receive additional regiments from throughout the Confederacy. He would eventually have 4 brigades of infantry and an independent regiment of cavalry, the 1st Virginia Cavalry commanded by J.E.B. Stuart. In mid-June, forces from the Union Department of Pennsylvania commanded by Robert Patterson began moving south towards Harper's Ferry. Fearing that the terrain around the town made it indefensible, Johnston had the bridges and as much equipment in the town as possible destroyed and retreated south to Winchester. Patterson remained along the Potomac River rather than pursue Johnston. Over the next few weeks, both forces watched each other, only engaging in battle once at Falling Waters on July 2. After spending almost 2 weeks waiting on the Potomac and receiving reinforcements, Patterson started advancing towards Winchester but had moved only 5 miles before encountering Stuart's regiment screening Johnston's army. Patterson halted again and consulted his officers, who were advised caution. This advice, along with the refusal of several regiments which were due for mustering out to remain any longer, convinced Patterson to cancel the advance. This allowed Johnston to follow orders he received on July 18 to transfer his army to reinforce P.G. Beauregard's Army of the Potomac at Manassas Junction. The movement started that evening, with each brigade marching to Piedmont where it boarded a train for Manassas Junction. Since there was only one train on the Manassas Gap Railroad, the brigades arrived one at a time. The artillery and cavalry marched overland. The final units of Johnston's army arrived on the afternoon of July 21. Since he was senior to Beauregard, Johnston had command over the 2 armies present. Before Johnston arrived at Manassas, Beauregard had drawn up plans for an attack on the Union Army of Irvin McDowell across Bull Run on July 21. Using brigades from both armies, and Johnston approved the plan, allowing Beauregard to issue the necessary orders in his name. However, the orders were vague and contradictory, which confused the brigade commanders and prevented the attack from taking place. On the morning of July 21, McDowell launched his own attack on the Confederate left wing, defended by one of Beauregard's brigades. As the battle escalated in the area of Matthews Hill and Henry House Hill, additional Confederate brigades were moved to the left flank. Eventually, all 4 of Johnston's brigades and 4 out of Beauregard's 8 brigades were engaged in this area. It was while defending Henry House Hill that Jackson received his nickname of Stonewall, which also became the name of his brigade. After the battle, Johnston's and Beauregard's commands were consolidated into the Department of Northern Virginia. With the merged army using the name Army of the Potomac, Johnston retained command of the army, with Beauregard remaining as second in command until his transfer to the Western Theater. Order of battle at Manassas. Army of the Shenandoah, General Joseph E. Johnston 1st Brigade, Brigadier General Thomas J. Jackson 2nd Virginia Infantry, Colonel James W. Allen 4th Virginia Infantry, Colonel James F. Preston 5th Virginia Infantry, Colonel K. Harper 27th Virginia Infantry, Lieutenant Colonel John Eccles 33rd Virginia Infantry, Colonel Arthur C. Cummings Rockbridge Artillery, Captain J. P. Brockenborough 2nd Brigade, Colonel Francis Bartow, Colonel Lucius J. Gartrell 7th Georgia Infantry, Colonel L. J. Gartrell 8th Georgia Infantry, Lieutenant Colonel W. M. Gardner, 1st Kentucky Battalion, Marge Thomas Claiborne Pope's Kentucky Battalion, Major John Pope Wise Artillery, Lieutenant John Pelham 3rd Brigade, Brigadier General Barnard E. B. Colonel States Rights Gist 4th Alabama, Colonel Egbert Jones, Colonel States Rights Gist 2nd Mississippi, Colonel William C. Faulkner 11th Mississippi, Lieutenant Colonel P. F. Little 6th North Carolina, Colonel C. F. Fisher Staunton Artillery, Captain John D. Imboden, 4th Brigade, Brigadier General Edmund Kirby Smith, Colonel Arnold Elsley 1st Maryland Battalion, Lieutenant Colonel George H. Stewart 3rd Tennessee, Colonel John C. Vaughan 10th Virginia Infantry, Colonel S. B. Gibbons Culpeper Artillery, Lieutenant R. F. Beckham, not brigaded, 1st Virginia Cavalry, Colonel J. E. B. Stewart Thomas Artillery, Captain P. B. Stannard,